One of the most important elements of user experience design is thinking about personas. And I think as part of your eight process, you've probably gone through a persona research process, haven't you? And I know some of the eight teams have probably taken you through this process, but I think it's worth just, reiterating a little bit about customer persona development, why you do it. And customer persona development helps you identify user behaviors, motivations, and attitudes, and it provides a tangible focus for your customer development strategy and product design activities. So whenever you're thinking about designing a new service or a new email or whatever it is, just always think about your customers and their motivations behind that, and developing sort of customer research and intelligence can be a genuine representation of your customer types. And once you've got that background information, I always think it's best doing some type of primary research if you can actually get to talk to your customers. I know sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to actually get in front of a doctor or get in front of one of your customer types, but actually it's time well spent if you can actually get in there and learn a little bit about who your customers are and what motivates them. It does genuinely help you to do sort of solid customer research. You might want to start with sketch personas, and we often, whenever we're dealing with customers, we often start with sketch personas. And what we're trying to do here is we try and sort of get that useful information out of the heads of those end users. And we often find that key stakeholders have got some really valuable information that we can sort of pull out of their heads, and because they're dealing often with the types of customers that we want to sell to if we're in the marketing department. So understanding some of the sort of key ideas and the key themes helps us then when we're coming to recruit users for later on in user research. And what we want to do is to understand the attitudes, motivations, behaviors. What are the pains and the gains? What is it that makes those users tick? Is it what's going on in the users' minds? What influences the users? All those types of things can feed into the process. And in an ideal scenario, what we want to be able to do is actually genuinely interview those users and get sort of proper customer feedback from those users. Whenever we're doing things like user research, we might use things like a usability testing lab, or we might get users to go through a process. But again, it can you can follow the approach of looking at things like focus groups. I'm sort of bit anti-focus groups because they tend to be led by the loudest voice in the room. But we can, get some good information from one-on-one user interviews, and they tend to be the best way of get a drug. So just to reiterate some of the key benefits of developing user personas, understand and articulate your users' attitudes, motivations, behaviors, pains, gains, etc. So you're able to present that information to key stakeholders much more clearly if we've got them down as a persona. And we can generate genuine customer insight that can be used by the business and can be used by potentially other departments in the process as well. When you're thinking about design challenges, or designing a sort of campaign based around the user needs, it can really have an impact on that process. And being able to apply learning can strengthen the sort of design features and retention rates that you get. And also the big thing is really all about customer engagement. And then being able to highlight information gaps about your product or service can be really valuable as well, because it means that you might want to go out and get some additional research done about that particular user. So whenever we're thinking about designing for a particular user type, you have to really understand that you aren't the user. So although you think you might understand what makes that particular user tick, you are not that user. So you genuinely do have to go and speak to the user, and understanding a little bit more about what makes that user tick is vitally important when going to design that digital product or service. And I think if you went down the route of designing a car that pleased every possible driver, you can only design a particular car or a particular service for one type of user. And if you design something that worked for every single type of user, ultimately no one will want to drive it. And likewise, with your users in mind, when you're thinking about designing a campaign, you've got to design it with the end user in mind, and ultimately no one would want to drive it, would they? So next we're going to go on to a little bit more about the same subject, and on to the next module.